It is the 9th. Is it the 9th? I think it is the 9th of April. It's the 9th all day, I think. Yeah, we're doing this thing where it's the 8th. The 9th is Saturday. It's the 8th. I don't know. I'm getting excited for Saturday. It is FriYAY. Our FriYAY episode is always the best because it is the end of the week where we get to go and do stuff that isn't including work on Saturdays. Yeah, that's how it works. Actually have a lot to talk about today. Something you're going to want to watch more of the video. If you're just casually surfing through, you might want to hang out for a little bit because we are going to discuss things that are going to affect people who are driving in Toronto next week. I mean, listen, here's the deal. There's things that will affect you on our roads every day if you choose to break the law. But there's a very specific chance that you may be meeting a police officer next week, and we'll get into that in just a moment. What can I tell you first? First. I need a different window on my screen. What happened? Oh, here we go. Okay, let's talk about today. Vision Zero Enforcement Team. Yes. If you don't know what the Vision Zero Enforcement Team is, it's a group of dedicated officers whose focus is enforcement. Call it an enforcement team. What do they enforce? Well, it's the Highway Traffic Act, and they're trying to change the driver behaviors that lead to serious injury and death on our roads. Yes, we have problems with people who don't follow the rules, and it's not rules just to have rules. It's not just a cash grab to catch you doing something you're not supposed to do. It's very specifically a problem when it comes to people who are driving in such a way that it leads to serious injury and death on our roads. And what do? They go out and they look for the people who are speeding, driving aggressively, driving distracted, and driving impaired. And they issue tickets. Not warnings, not hugs, tickets, hoping that will be the last time that we have to speak to them about it. Sometimes people don't get it. They just keep doing what they're doing. And that's a problem. So what's going to happen next week? Well, we're talking about speed kills, because it does. A lot of people say it doesn't. People have lots of excuses why speeding's okay and it's not a big deal, and we're just bothering them. I'm sorry that they feel that way, but the truth is, speeding does kill. It leads to more serious injuries and death on our roads, and we need to stop it. So what are we doing? We are doing a campaign citywide. It's going to be enforcement of the speed limit in particular. So if you have a lead foot, if you don't really care about going a couple over, you might want to check yourself. Wait, no, I'm not going to say it. You might want to check. You may want to not do what you do because you might get a ticket that upsets you. What do I want to do here? I want to change. I want to do this, and I want to do that. No, this. No, yeah, let's do this. I kind of like this background. Sorry for TikTok.
Mona Lisa? Oh.
The Mona Lisa. I'm the Mona Lisa now. I'm now used to this background. That's what I wanted to see. Just in case, so I don't have to keep reminding people who I am. And for those who just popped in, we have about 300 people on TikTok that are now watching. My name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police constable at the Toronto Police Service. It says so right there. This is Ask a Traffic Cop, and we're going to be answering your traffic and police questions for an hour, right till 11, but no longer. Ryan Pinn is watching from Nova Scotia through YouTube. Says good morning. Good morning, Ryan. Good to see you. You were like right on time today, because yesterday you were running a little behind. But it's good to see you, my friend. Ryan is a driving instructor and person with knowledge, lots of knowledge, and spends time with us. It's really cool. If you are watching on Instagram Live, if you're watching on TikTok, please know that the only way I will see your questions is to use the Q&A function. We do have some magical moderators who are in the room, and they are working to make sure that your questions that are asked in the chat are answered in the chat, but it's not going to be by me. They know lots of stuff because it's through osmosis. They spend every day with me. It's amazing. Tracy Bell coming in from LinkedIn. Good morning, Sean and Q. Thank you very much. Good morning to you. Happy FriYAY.
Morning.
What?
I said good morning to Tracy.
Man, you just did. Yes, you did. Now, Q threw up on the screen there. She She posted on the screen, boop the snoop and share the insider info leak. So the insider info leak is the fact that we have this campaign coming up, and there are people who are going to want to know this. We're going to put up a video after the show all about that as well. More news coming to that through traditional news media on Monday when we do a media release. But please hit that screen. Show everybody that this is stuff that they need to be watching. Share it. They'll love you for it. People respect when you share good information, and we are good information. So share the live, share our videos. And actually, speaking of videos, I haven't put this up, but we posted a video yesterday asking if you're powerful. And the idea was to get some conversation going. Oddly enough, it didn't do as well as I thought it would. It did upset some people because they said, well, you can't call us villains just because we speed and break the law. I'm like, so what do you want us to call you? Violator is the more commonly accepted terminology. And in truth, I didn't call them villains. I just said they weren't heroes. Please watch the video. I put a link. Well, that's the video that we posted. It's the second last video posted. So check it out afterwards. Let me know what you think. I'm really curious if you think, was I being too mean to say that people who put lives at risk unnecessarily by speeding are not heroes? I don't know. Let me know. Caitlin Graton says, I'm going back into the name. I keep wanting to say it differently. Happy Friday, Sean and Q. How are you two today? I'm doing great. Q, you doing great?
I'm doing awesome. I have internet back.
Everybody, oh, yes. Rogers was not being cooperative for Q over the last couple of days, but you are back to the land of high-speed internet. No burning your tether.
Dedication is key.
Yes, I'm switching to Rogers. I'm going to be on Rogers. So I can be in the no internet from home. Hopefully, they're going to be stable. Hasn't happened yet, but it's supposed to happen next week.
Why are our tax dollars going towards this?
Oh! Who asked that? Is it on screen too?
No, it's not on screen. It's in the chat.
It's not on screen. It's just a chat. How come our tax dollars are doing this? Yeah, I get this question a lot, and I love answering it. I really do. We actually talked about it on the Jerry Agar show yesterday, I think. I'm a media relations officer. I'm a social media officer. I'm an officer. I'm a traffic educator. I'm here helping people understand the laws here in Ontario, answering questions that you have. See, we used to do this at trade shows. You'd go stand at a trade show and punch a clock because we actually punch a clock. We sign in, we sign out. And I might talk to 5, 10, 15, 20 people. We're there. We're a resource. Here I'm speaking to thousands of people. On average, I'd say we have 10,000 people come through our lives daily. We've had as high as 25,000 people. We've had sustained levels of 1,600 to 2,500 people in the room at any given time. Some days it's low, sometimes it's high. You know what? We're constantly engaging and not only demystifying and explaining things, but we're just here to talk, and that's important. It's important to be accessible as the police. Not many people have access to a police officer on their phone at home, and it's not always easy to talk to us. I understand that sometimes the uniform is intimidating. It's a thing. Pro Football Craze says, good morning. Jim Wallace says, thanks for keeping the roads in TFTO safe. Well, we're trying. We really are. Andrew McNaughton says, good morning. Trimsy says, hello, what is this? If I wanted to have a car 2 colors, like half of it wrapped, for example, blue and red, do I have to register the car as both colors? Good question. So I have a good answer for you. If you significantly change the color of your vehicle, you do need to update the ministry. In that situation, it would be considered a multicolored vehicle. If you don't update that, you could be ticketed. You have 6 days after you make the change to make that update with the ministry. And if you don't, you could be charged for failing to update or report information to the ministry. So you need to do that in Ontario. Different environments, different rules, but in Ontario, definitely you do. Linda says, good morning, hero. And I stopped arguing with Linda. She was calling me hero, and I said, I'm not a hero. I'm just a guy here trying to make a difference. But, hero is a bit of a stretch for me. But she says, no, first responders are heroes. So I'm accepting it. I'm no longer arguing. But thank you, Linda, for the good morning. Okay. What is this? Okay, I'm going to use this. I'm going to use the button because I think the word tint was used, so I got to use the button. Is it legal to tint your headlights and taillights? No. No-ish. No for your headlights, absolutely not. You can't tint or put anything on your headlights. You can only project color of yellow or white light. That's it to the front. As soon as you're tinting things, you're changing that color for 1. 2, you can't put anything on top. There's specific wording that says you can't do that. When it comes to taillights, it's less specific. It doesn't say you can't put tinting. However, if it's not discernible or effective at 150 meters, you are making your brake lights not work properly. Thus, if you get into a collision, you might be more responsible for that collision, for creating the collision, than you may think you are. We call that a clue when we investigate cars and have that. So I would avoid that. And why would you? I mean, looking good, it can only be so important to you. When it comes to notifying drivers that you're changing your speed, yeah, that's kind of a requirement and really important. I don't want to get rear-ended. Let's see. Do you need post-secondary to be an officer in Ontario? When I got hired, the minimum requirement was grade 12. In fact, it still is the minimum requirement, although there is a significant push to have post-secondary. Now, is it a requirement? No, it is something that we want, and we want it because for a long time, high school was the standard. Now people are getting their master's degrees, and the standard is now university. It's a competitive process. We want the best applicant we can possibly get, and we are certainly putting a lot of weight on post-secondary education. And that brings me to the fact that we are hiring. We are looking for good quality applicants. You want to be a police officer, want to be a member of our civilian crew, want to work as a parking enforcement officer, as a special constable. There's a ton of different positions. We were just hiring mechanics. There's other civilian positions that are currently posted. Check out our careers page. That's www.torontopolice.on.ca/careers. On there, you can find information, even information about volunteering, and there we go. There's the shorter version of the website, tps.on.ca/careers. Okay. Motorcycle season. Anyway, riding. I'm a rider. I haven't ridden in a while. I got into a crash and haven't been on a bike since, but I really want to get on a bike. I miss my bike, which is collecting dust in my garage. But you know what? With gas prices, I think that is a really good time to get the bike back out. I just don't know if I'm up for it yet. Let me know if you ride. I want to know. If you ride, and what do you ride? Are there recently less people applying to be cops? I think that there is a bit of a desire to get the executive, key to the washroom, or maybe to be a dropship business at home, or doing the job of police officers. Not always fun. It's not always convenient. There's shift work, but it's very hard to get in. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there are less people applying or not. I don't know the deal, but I think that there are. Not everybody likes the police. It's a more controversial job, but it is the best job. At least I think it's the best job that you could possibly have. Give back to the community, serve the community, and do good things every day. I've worked in the private sector, and when I worked in the private sector, I had my own businesses. I've worked for companies, and I never had the same satisfaction of going to work and knowing that every day, first of all, is completely different. Maybe not so much for me because I'm at this desk talking to you guys every day. Well, actually, you know what? Every day the questions are different. But as a police officer on the road, truly every day is different. There's no 2 days that are the same, and it's awesome. It really is. It doesn't matter. I've worked in traffic. I've worked in divisional response. I've worked in the motor squad, which is a sub unit of traffic, and I love coming to work. I really do. Great people, and I love meeting people in the public and helping them when they need help. It's really, really rewarding. Let's see here. Can I drive 119 kilometers an hour on the 401? I know people do it. Are you allowed to legally? No, you're not. You cannot exceed the speed limit for any reason. And you take your chances. If you're going to speed, you might get pulled over. You might get a ticket. And any speed over the speed limit is something that's going to increase your insurance. There's no freebies. They don't care about points. And there are points for 19 kilometers over. There's 3 demerit points. But points only go towards the ministry determining whether or not they should take your license away and whether they're going to send you some nasty letters saying that you're not being a good driver. When it comes to insurance, they look at everything. So don't get tickets. And you know what? When you increase your speeds, I think 10 kilometers over the posted limit is statistically going to quadruple your chance of getting into a collision. Those numbers go up with every kilometer, of course.
I need you to verbally confirm whether or not plate covers are legal.
Plate covers are not legal, nor are plate frames. Anything that obstructs or covers any portion of your license plate in Ontario are illegal. I'm going to post on Twitter later on Traffic Services account a great picture that was sent to me, and it's of a person who has a tinted plate cover. You would not even know that there's a license plate under there. It's just so dark. So yeah, it's totally illegal. Are you allowed to change your steering wheel? Kind of, sort of, maybe sometimes under certain conditions. If you have an airbag, no, because you cannot remove your airbag. But if you have a vehicle that was never shipped with an airbag, it was a pre-airbag vehicle, you could put an aftermarket steering wheel on there. That being said, removable quick-release steering wheels are a no-no. Those aren't safe. But a regular aftermarket steering wheel could be used, again, as long as you're not removing the airbag. Hope that answers your question. Tracy Bell has her M2. Awesome. You sold your Harley a couple of years ago. Too many people on cell phones and too many close calls. You know what? You make a very good point. People on cell phones, distracted drivers, people who are just not doing what they should be doing, which is focusing on driving, they make it dangerous for all vulnerable road users. Vulnerable didn't flow off my tongue very well, but vulnerable road users, cyclists, pedestrians, even skateboarders who probably shouldn't be on the road. But you know what? They're people who are using the roadway, and they are at high risk when people are not doing what they should do. Folks, if you're going to drive a car, do the right thing. Put away all the distractions. Focus on the task at hand. Get to where you have to go without hurting yourself or anybody else, and that is the way to keep people safe. Speeding, obviously, don't speed, follow the rules, but focus. If you're focused at least on driving, you're one step ahead of the other people. And I ride, and I look forward to getting back on the road. I want to get to where I'm going, too. I have a right for safety, right? I like to think so. Okay. Is driving on your own property with no license illegal? So you're required to have a license to drive on the road, on a roadway. If you're on private property, we can't issue a ticket for not driving with a license because the HTA, that section of the HTA doesn't apply to private property. Stunt driving on private property, not permitted. So that would be something that we could lay the charge for. Hey, if you're watching us and you don't already follow us, please do. You can follow us on TikTok and Instagram. We're currently broadcasting on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, everywhere. So if you're watching, please follow us. You get notified when we go live every time. And we are also doing lots of cool things. In fact, we have a podcast now. And Scott Marshall, who's in the chat, he's the safe driver. You should follow him because he's going to be one of our guests coming up. He used to be with us every Friday, and we've gotten out of the routine of having regular shows. But we are getting back into it, and I have it on good authority that he's willing to talk to us again. And the show, the interview that we do, will also be available on the podcast, which is called TPS Traffic Jam, because we're jamming about traffic, as opposed to This is Ask a Traffic Cop, where we ask or answer your questions that you ask us live. Okay. Do you still need a safety if stickers are not required? Yes, your vehicle still must be safe to qualify for plates and so on. Your vehicle, if it's not safe, will be pulled off the road. Safety inspections are important. They're not required when you renew. They're required when you transfer ownership. But absolutely, and for commercial vehicles, they're regularly required and inspected. And for commercial vehicles, you still need stickers. This is just for light trucks and personal vehicles that the sticker program, and motorcycles and such like that. Sergeant Murray Campbell is really upset because his snowmobile still needs a sticker, but his car doesn't. Do you need a license for a dirt bike? No, and you cannot use a dirt bike on the road. It's a private, it's an off-road vehicle only, but a license isn't required. Whereas you would need a license with a quad, an ATV, a four-wheeler, when it's being used on the road. Q, Sean, we're watching you in Brooks, Alberta. Hey, how's it going? Did you find that up on us from just finding us on TikTok?
Communities?
Or was it Safe Communities that told you about us? Because we love Safe Communities. They're in Brooks, Alberta. I'm determined that I'm making a trip to Brooks, Alberta to hang out with the gang there. Because I have so much fun watching their videos. And speaking of which, I went to the motorcycle show not too long ago in Toronto, and it mentioned that I was going to be there. But there's going to be more events, and now that things are opening up, I really look forward to meeting folks and having the opportunity to meet in person, because that's cool. We've been like over a year just talking like this, and I think it'd be great to meet folks and do some in-person stuff. So look for opportunities for that when it happens. Pepe says, thanks for answering my question yesterday. Everything is all good now. I'm glad to hear it. I don't remember which question we were talking about, but I'm glad that it worked out. And Rob Baker sent me a happy face wearing a cowboy hat. That must mean something. Do you think that everybody should have a dash cam? I most certainly do. I have them in my vehicles. I think they really are the best thing that you can do to protect yourself, because a lot of people do a lot of things and then say it's not their fault. And when there's nobody else, when there's no independent witness of a collision or a happening, then you rely on the individual, he said, she said, they said. At the end of the day, you may find yourself charged or not charged. And if you have that dash cam, you have a definitive piece of information that is impartial and will help you out. Can a GPS screen be attached to the windshield? A GPS can be mounted to your dash or windshield if it doesn't obstruct your driver's view. And that gets sticky because pretty much anywhere in the path of the windshield wiper isn't going to be an obstruction. So I would say low on the dashboard, somewhere in your line of sight, but that does not obstruct your view, and you'd be safe. There's a lot of ways to mount them that aren't in your view. I'd look at those. But here's the real question: who has a GPS anymore? And I say that with a smile, because I used to have a GPS. I had GPSs before they had maps. They just had like lines to find out where you went back, and they only talked to 4 satellites at a time. I don't think I've plugged a GPS into a cigarette lighter adapter in like 20 years. Maybe. Cell phones, you can use the GPS mode on your cell phone as long as it's mounted and you're not touching the phone in any way, shape, or form. You can connect it and forget it. It's just there. And audio prompts with modern GPSs, or of course your cell phone. Audio prompts, really good. Keep your eyes on the road.
Sandwiches.
Please don't spam, folks. No spam, no ham, no spam and ham. A lot of folks like to come in and ask repeatedly the same questions, or maybe just try and annoy people. It doesn't annoy me. I don't see anything that's happening in the chat. I'm busy in the Q&A. But it does make life difficult for our volunteers, for our moderators, those unpaid folks who give up their day, or at least hours in the day, to help you out so that your questions can be answered. So here's the deal. Please be kind. Please, don't spam. And if you do, we're going to ask you to leave by way of muting you or kicking you out of the live. What determines? I can't speak today. What determines the speed limit for a given road? Generally, it's engineers who do things. They determine what's safe based on stuff and things. I actually they do studies. They construct roads based on what the safety provisions are going to be, but I don't know the ins and outs of it. I just know that people with big brains make those decisions. And lately, we've been reducing the speed limits because we understand that collisions are going to happen, but the ones that lead to serious injury and death are both avoidable and unacceptable. So we listen to these things and we slow things down. So City of Toronto now has areas, entire communities that are only 30 kilometers an hour. And that's because if you hit a pedestrian at that speed, they are far more likely to survive. Actuarial science and risk management with calculations and statistics, according to Q. Those things go into determining what the speed limits are going to be. Is it legal to flash our lights at other cars that don't have their lights on at night? You know what? Legally, high beaming someone is legally or technically not legal. However, letting somebody know that they're driving without their lights on is pretty important. So I don't think you're going to have any issue if you do it. Honking, it may not be effective. Lights are good. Problem is, I've done that with people. I've honked. I pulled up next to them. They ignore you and they think you're being aggressive because you're saying, "Hey, excuse me, your lights are." The people are completely clued out. So do your best, but you don't want to escalate that into confrontation that's taken negatively. Can I have LED on my motorcycle? I don't know what you mean by LED. Do you mean headlights, taillights, signal lights, license plate lights, accent lights? That's very vague. So it depends on what you have. Can you have accent lights? Sure. You can't project light other than white or yellow to the back. You can't project anything other than red or amber to the rear. You could have issues depending on what you're doing. Can a 15-year-old drive on private property? Technically, there's no way to charge them for violating the licensing rules because it's private property. So it's not that it's legal or not legal. It's just not enforceable. Are the vehicles insured on private property with a 15-year-old unlicensed driver? No. If they're stunt driving on private property, are they eligible for a charge? Yes, they are. Is it a good idea? Probably not. I would wait until they are properly licensed to operate a motor vehicle. Obviously, there's off-road vehicles they can legally operate because there's no provisions against it. And again, we wouldn't charge anyone because we can't. What is the penalty for driving alone with a G1? One of my very favorite questions, actually. And the answer is first offense, 30-day license suspension and a $110 fine. Additionally, if you are caught again, you would get the $110 fine and you would get a 90-day suspension. The next time you're caught, you would get kicked out of the graduate licensing program and you'd have to start again. You'd lose all money and time because you're trying to accrue time as a licensed G1 so that you can get either 8 months with a course or 12 months without a course to get your next opportunity to get your G2. That would reset to zero and you have to start from zero because it's zero. Okay, what else can I tell you about that? You're also not insured as a G1 when you're driving alone. Things to know. And your vehicle might be insured, But if you got into a collision, they would deny you the claim because, well, Bozo G1 is driving alone. And I don't have a problem calling a G1 driver who drives alone a bozo because they're making a really bad decision. It's just not smart. Okay, how does a speed camera know which car is speeding? It's I don't know the specifics of how the computer algorithm determines it. It can tell how fast a vehicle is approaching. And going through, I assume it knows stuff. It usually, and when it comes to radar detector or radar devices, it tells you the fastest moving vehicle. So if one vehicle is passing another at the lights at the same time, it must know that it's the fastest. But I don't know how their system works. I know how we do it with an actual B3 or a laser. I can talk about that, but it's a totally different situation. I don't know how their systems work, but they do work. They got all like papers that say they work. I don't know. Are exhaust whistles legal? Why would anyone put an exhaust whistle on their vehicle? And I'm going to assume it's unnecessary noise. I don't know exactly how loud or obnoxious an exhaust whistle is. I'm going to say it's unnecessary noise, and it could be a $110 ticket if, why? Yeah, I got to go look at how ridiculous an exhaust whistle is. Why do people say 5 kilometers over is okay on the highway? People say a lot of things, even though they don't know what they're talking about. The legal limit is the posted limit. Anything over the posted limit is not legal. You can be charged for 5 kilometers over. And, next week you could find out if 5 kilometers over is going to get you a ticket because we're doing a speed enforcement campaign. Now, we always enforce speed limits, but this is where everybody in the city of Toronto will be enforcing speed limits. Like everybody will be looking, and not just traffic folks. I think this is going to be a pretty intense experience for a lot of people who violate the law. People are just not respecting our roads. They're putting cyclists and everyone else at risk. So while 5 kilometers may not be the focus of our efforts, why would you speed? What's 5 kilometers going to do? Over the scheme of things, you're going to get there like 6 seconds faster, maybe. Probably you'll be at the same red light as everybody else when we come to a stop. Just don't speed. Let's see here.
Can the viewers who ask questions in chat check chat for the answers?
Yes, viewers who ask questions in chat, the only place to get your answer is generally going to be in the chat. I'm focused on the Q&A section because that's how I roll. Let's have a look here. Oh, really? Hang on one second. That's very funny. Apparently, there was music playing in the background at a very low volume. Well, I'm glad that you let me know. That's very weird. Occasionally, the adapter that we plug in to get the audio out of the mic box into this triggers pressing play. And until someone tells me, I don't know what's going. So thank you very much. Was it good music? I don't know. Oh, here's a question from Nadeem. Can I now remove my validation tag from my license plate? If you have renewed under the new system, yeah, you're good to go. You can remove it. I say if you've renewed. See, technically speaking, if your plate was still valid, it's still valid even if you took the sticker off because of the new program. But I think out of an abundance of caution, you wait until you've renewed online. Okay. What is this question? Do I think a 325 ticket is fair for turning left on a one-way to a two-way if you have no idea about the stupid law? So if you don't know what the law is, you probably shouldn't be breaking it. Unfortunately, there is no excuse. It's going through it's going through a red light or proceeding before green, depending on what you were charged for. So yeah, I think it's fair. If you drive here, you ought to have known, even if you didn't know. And that's what we do here is educate people. So we've talked about this a ton of times, and I'm sad to say that if you watched every one of our videos and been on our lives, you probably wouldn't have had that charge. But I appreciate it. It's not fun getting a ticket, but I bet you won't get that ticket again. Let's see here. And let's see here. Can you drive to other provinces with a Quebec permit? When you say permit, is that a full license? Because if you have a full license, you can drive across Canada and the United States. It's a license that's accepted pretty much anywhere. If you have a learner's permit, then no, you can't take a G1 equivalent learners where you have to be supervised. You can't drive out of your province with that. And likewise, a G1, you can't drive elsewhere. G2 is a provisional or probationary license, and you can drive elsewhere with that. Someone says, tyrants. You got to be kidding me. Enforcing traffic laws to keep people safe makes you a tyrant? I love some of these comments. People are completely out to lunch. Okay, and I mean that to the person who says that it's tyrannical to enforce traffic laws that are there to keep people safe. I know, not everybody agrees. I'm passionate about traffic safety. I was involved in a collision. I've been involved in a couple of collisions, but one in particular that was totally avoidable. And I understand what it's like to go through the recovery after a collision. It changes your life. I don't want people to lose loved ones and deal with the long-term effects of collisions, because even minor collisions can change your life forever. Apparently, Mayada Dream Car is really excited about becoming a member of a SWAT team, so much so that they're spamming the chat about it. Good for you. You should join the police service and eventually work your way into something like that. But it does take. It is not an easy thing to become a ETF tactical officer. That's a lot of work and dedication. Have you found that some cops have a God complex? I think that there are some lawyers, doctors, accountants. There are people of all profession who have, that are wrapped up in themselves, or narcissists. There's people of all kinds. It doesn't matter what job you have. There are people who think they're special and may not be. Okay. Can I drive with an adult at 15 in a parking lot? Can you? You wouldn't be charged for it because the offense under the Highway Traffic Act can't be enforced for driving without a license, but it's not a good idea. Wait until you get your license. That would be the right thing to do. And then get an education on how to drive properly. Learning with mom and dad is great, but it doesn't mean that they are good at teaching how to drive.
Summer's coming. Can I drive barefoot or in flip-flops?
Summer is... Oh, there we go. Turning up the volume. You're good? Okay. Sergeant Murray Campbell is joining us and can answer the question of, it's summer's coming. Can you drive with flip-flops?
Can you drive with flip-flops? Sure you can. Legally you can, but... really, is it advisable? Well,
I don't think it's a good idea.
No, I don't think it's a good idea either. You can. Through experience, I've noticed that people involved in the crash tend to lose their shoes. And if you've crashed your car and there's a whole bunch of dangers around, like broken glass and all that, and you have to exit your vehicle very quickly, it's a bit of a problem when you're running through broken glass. So, you know what? Sturdy, secure footwear is usually the best.
Was it Jason Bourne who said you should never wear anything you can't run in?
You know what? I don't know if I saw that movie, but...
You've never seen the Bourne movies?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so disappointed.
I live a sheltered life, I guess.
It may not have been Jason Bourne, but there was something somewhere that told me you should always be able to run in whatever footwear you have. And when you're driving, footwear like flip-flops tends to, or have the ability to slide off and become lodged behind pedals, which then make it very hard to depress things like brakes or gas. And you could find yourself being in a collision or because of those flip-flops. So it really is a hazard, although not technically illegal. Barefoot, barefoot also is the follow-up that comes with that. And not illegal, but when you smash that brake pedal in an emergency and your toes are suddenly bending back, you might regret it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not fun.
You know what? Footwear is important. I have snowmobile boots that are very, very good on a snowmobile, very, very warm, but I have no pedal feel when I'm driving. So I do have to take them off when I'm driving my vehicle and switch them out.
Yeah, good things to do. Charges for riding a dirt bike on the road. So good the timing of you joining us. I am not an off-road vehicle guy, but Sergeant Campbell is. Dirt bikes, we get asked this all the time. ATVs, you can ride on the road under certain circumstances with licensed drivers, insurance, and plates. But dirt bikes, you can't.
100%, absolutely, it's a no-no.
So,
nowhere, not even across the road.
It's amazing.
You can push them, though.
You get off and walk. Yeah, they're light. They're light. I used to have a lot of fun on dirt bikes many years ago, but I don't think I'm going back there to do off-roading, jumping in the air stuff.
I'll do it. I'll do it for you.
Okay, I appreciate that. Someone's got to do it. What's the legal right out of the box in the truck? What? I'm not even sure what the question is. What's
probably
the legal,
riding in the box?
Is it? What's the legal right out in the box? Well, we're going to assume that it means the question is, can I ride in the back of a pickup? And the answer is no. That may not have been your question, but that's going to be the answer we give based on guesstimations of possible questions. Okay. Please share tinting guidelines. Tinting guidelines. So the laws surrounding tint are that you can have nothing on the front windshield, save and except for vehicles manufactured before 2017, so 2016 or older. They can have 3 inches or 75 millimeters of tint at the top of the windshield. That is generally referred to as a brow or sun strip. So anything newer can have nothing on the windshield. For the windows directly left and right of the driver, you can have no more than 30% light blockage. That means 70% of the light has to get through. And the windows behind you, behind the driver, they can go as dark as you want. Now, it's something else to add to the windows left and right of the driver, and of course the windshield. They cannot be mirrored. You can't have any reflective tint. That would be absolutely illegal. So what happens if you have tint that is darker than 30%? What happens if you have reflective tint? There's a bunch of different things. One, your vehicle can be deemed unsafe, either the windshield or the windows left and right of the driver, and that could result in you losing your license plates and requiring a tow to get home. Additionally, if your windows are so dark, regardless of the rating when it comes to percentages of light, if they're dark enough to prevent us from seeing inside the vehicle, there is a charge under the Highway Traffic Act, and it says obscure interior vehicle with color coding or reflective tint. So we have to be able to see inside. We have to be able to identify a driver and see what you're doing. People say, "Oh, I want to pick my nose in privacy." You don't actually get that right. We have to be able to see: are you drinking? Are you smoking? Are you on the phone? Those are things that we're entitled to see. There's no expectation of privacy inside your vehicle.
Yeah, right down to seeing if you're wearing your seatbelt or not.
Yes, it's of all the times I've talked about it, I don't think I've ever mentioned seatbelts as being one of the reasons, and that's a fantastic example of why.
Yep.
Yeah. Why, you've changed my life.
This happens when I'm away for a week.
You know what? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Someone says, how would you consider fault when a guy riding an electric bike on a sidewalk and a car turns over to the biker? I saw this last Sunday. A lot of people seem to like to do it even on the road. So first off, riding electric bicycles is not permitted on the sidewalk, period. So there's going to be some fault there. The person turning also has fault because they need to be able to ensure that any movement of their vehicle when making a turn is done so safely. So there's very likely that there would be charges for both parties there. Would you add anything on that?
No, I would just add that insurance can make their own determination as to fault. The driver driving the vehicle has to make their turn safely and know what's on the sidewalk and know what could be entering.
Even when the person who's riding a bicycle on the sidewalk shouldn't be there. So, yeah, that's another thing. It's a very good point. The fact that insurance companies, they listen to what we say and then they do what they want.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Are there digital driver's licenses yet? Sure there are, just not in Ontario. It's something that's on the way. They keep talking about it, but it has not happened yet. So in the meantime, you may only use your actual physical license when pulled over, stopped, and a demand is made of you by a police officer, or when you're surrendering it or exchanging information with another driver after a collision, because you do have to exchange information legally. Tinto Tozy, who's coming in from Montreal via Facebook, says, we might as well ban high heels. Well, no, you don't ban them, but they are. I can't imagine what it would be like I can't imagine what it would be like to walk in high heels. Never mind drive in high heels. But then again, I've never tried.
Neither have I, actually. So, you know what? I would imagine pedal feel would be a little bit different.
I can't even. But you know what? Many of my friends who wear high heels, they have driving shoes when they drive. They have flats for that, and that makes a lot of sense. I imagine you damage the shoes. I can't. I'm changing topics. I can't. I'm trying to visualize how that would work, and I just don't understand. Okay, lane ends. You try and merge, but a car won't let you. So you're not supposed to. And there are rules about preventing someone from passing. But when it comes to letting you in, they own that lane that you have to merge safely. You know what? You can slow down and let the next person in. Technically, we should be getting to the zipper, although it's not a legal requirement to zipper. That is the most efficient way to merge, where everybody lets one car in. I think a big problem is that we are not good at cooperative driving, in that there's a lack of courtesy in general on the road. And if everyone was sort of just being friendly, we'd get to where we have to go a lot sooner.
Yep. Unfortunately, it's 100% the responsibility of the person that is changing lanes and merging to do it when it's safe to do so. And if an ignorant driver is not letting you in or can't let you in because of one reason or another, then the obligation is on you.
Yeah, so that's where you have to pack your patience and slow down and wait. And there you go. Okay, where should dogs sit in the car? So dogs, or any animal for that matter, should either be crated or tethered in the back seat. You should not have them in the front seat just for their own safety, because airbags and dogs don't mix, or animals of any kind. And certainly you cannot have them on your lap or inside the area that the driver exists, because that would be careless driving or driving while crowded. They're not, it would be dangerous for the animal, and it also takes away from the driver's ability to focus on driving. You know, something else about tethering or crating. People say, well, what if they're just in the back seat and they're not tethered or crated? Is that okay? Legally, yes, but think about the safety of the animal. If you're involved in a collision, the window's broken, even if they're fine after the collision, they're not injured. What if they jump out and run into the highway and get killed? It would be horrible. So it is the suggestion of the SPCA, Humane Society, and the police who say tethering is the right thing to do. Okay. What are the laws on lowering your car? Well, my understanding is it's 1.5 inches from factory, but that doesn't mean anything to me because I'm not measuring it, because I don't know what factory is. What we look at when we pull a vehicle over is clearance to the ground. Is there contact? Is there contact from the tire or wheel to the frame or body when the suspension is compressed, when it's lock-to-lock steering? And at the end of the day, it has to be done safely. And that's a big thing.
Can the suspension compress?
Yes.
And a lot of people will do it the cheap way and just crank down the springs, lowering your car. It's not safe to do that. It causes the vehicle to bounce down the road. Your suspension is supposed to absorb road, imperfections. And in Ontario, we have a few imperfections. So
just a couple.
Yeah.
So I've seen some amazing videos on TikTok and other social media platforms where a vehicle's trying to get into a driveway, and when they go up the mild, like not a severe incline, two of the wheels come off the ground and they're teetering. That is an absolutely unsafe vehicle.
Yep, absolutely.
If you think about it, if you were to hit a bump and it was not absorbed by suspension, you may find yourself losing control and causing a collision. So there's a reason that safety requirements are safety requirements. Just like there's a reason why speed limits are speed limits. Don't do things that look cool but could be incredibly dangerous. Can you drive if you forgot your license at home? So you are a licensed driver even if your license isn't on you. However, there is an obligation under the Highway Traffic Act to surrender that license, that proof, upon demand of a police officer. So we might be able to verify that you're licensed, and that would allow you to continue on your way. However, you might get charged for failing to surrender a driver's license upon demand, and that is an issue. So are you legally allowed to? You should have. You're required to have it with you when you're operating a vehicle.
Yeah, you are committing an offense by not having it with you and be able to surrender it.
But
hopefully that changes when we get digital driver's licenses.
Yes, and then the biggest problem will be whether or not you charged your phone, because then you're going to still want to carry your driver's license as a backup for when your phone dies. It's like credit cards. I have a credit card on my telephone. It's great as long as the battery works and tap works. But anyway, Will probably sent this at the beginning of the show, but says, "Good morning and happy FriYAY." Happy FriYAY, Will. This is great. Gigi says, is driving with the interior light on against the law? And this is one that blew people away, and we had all sorts of really cool duets and stitches, because this is a video, it's at least a year old, and it was, the fact is, it's legal. It's not illegal to drive with the interior light on, which means my mom lied to me, because I grew up thinking that it was illegal. Now, it is a bad idea, because light inside your vehicle can cause your eyes to react, and then your night vision goes momentarily. It takes a while to get it reset, which is why some interior lights are red, and that would be less negative, I guess, to your vision. But it's not against the law, but in some jurisdictions in the States, it could be against the law. So know your local jurisdiction. When we talk about traffic law, we really do focus on Ontario law, although many of the laws we discuss are very similar state to state and province to province. How much over the limit would activate a radar? I'm going to assume you're talking about the automatic radar units, speed measurement or speed enforcement units that are located throughout the city. I don't have a specific number to give you, although I should tell you that you shouldn't speed, because if you don't speed, you'll never trigger one of those units. When it comes to police enforcement, and we do laser, radar, or even pacing, any speed over the speed limit could result in a ticket. You need to know that, and you're taking a risk when you choose to speed.
You know what? Each municipality sets up their own devices that they've purchased As long as they're set up towards the manufacturer specifications, I think they can set it up to register at any speed that they want that's over the speed limit that's posted there. So there is no number. It could be one. It could be something else. So
They could randomize. I don't know how it works.
Yep.
Somebody earlier asked, how do they know which vehicle is going faster when it comes to their machines? And I don't know how the automated speed system works. It's not something the Toronto Police is in charge of. That's entirely done by the City of Toronto and whatever municipality employs them.
Yep.
So I'm sure they're very smart computery things. What do you if an unmarked police tries to pull you over? If a police officer pulls you over, you need to pull over. If they activate their emergency equipment, you are legally obligated to pull over. If you have questions as to whether or not that is actually a police officer, well, there's a couple of things. Our unmarked officers or vehicles have full complements of lights and sirens. That's one, it's a hint. Second, the officer inside the vehicle is a uniformed member of our service and it is wearing the appropriate clothing. Additionally, if you were still not convinced that they were police officers, you could ask to see their warrant card, their badge. They could show you that. If you were still not convinced that they were a police officer, you could call into our dispatch and say that you've been pulled over and you want to confirm that they are in fact a police officer. These are things you can do if you're concerned. Now, because we're all radio dispatched and we have computer systems that we mark ourselves on, and because our GPS are transmitting our location at all times, the dispatcher will be able to say, yes, that's a police officer, and they've pulled you over. And that can, if there were concerns for your safety, that would be the way to go. That's not to say that everyone should go through that process, because it's somewhat unreasonable that you would think that someone is not who they say they are.
Yeah, and it doesn't always have to be a uniformed police officer pulls you over.
This is true.
I've worked in capacities where I've stopped people before not wearing a uniform. There's two offenses: failing to stop for the police when directed, and the other offense is failing to stop for flashing emergency vehicles. So a red or blue flashing light, or an ambulance is red and white flashing light. You have to pull over anyways. So my suggestion is pull over, roll down your window, interact, ask if you have some questions. They'll be able to prove it to you.
Absolutely.
And go from there. But you are obligated to stop.
I think that's the best and most appropriate, is that you must pull over. And here's another thing. People say, well, it wasn't a marked car. If you are in front of them, you won't know. The lights are so bright, you'd have no way of knowing if that's marked or unmarked. It's got lights. So pull over to avoid additional charges. Joker says, will police officers charge people with tinted taillights? I really hate people with dark tinted lights, especially when they turn on their indicators to switch lane and you can't even see it. Joker, that's exactly why it's not legal, because they have to be effective. They have to communicate what your intention to move is, and when they don't work, they tend to cause collisions. So it is an offense. We do lay charges. It's a pet peeve of somebody who's sitting somewhere near me, and it is for me too. It is not. There's no purpose of having them if they don't work, and having a cool car is only cool when it's not smashed up. So
absolutely. You know what pet peeve of mine? It's a safety device that's put on the back of your car to warn other drivers. If you're going to take it and make it less effective and then somebody runs into you, you may be at fault for that as well. I certainly I have no problem laying a ticket on that. And if I was ever investigating a collision, that would be a big part of my report.
Call it a clue.
Yeah.
It's a clue. What do you do with people who refuse to show identification? Here's the thing, and we're a traffic-minded channel, so we're going to assume you mean when we're pulling somebody over, either in a motor vehicle or a bicycle. As a motor vehicle operator, a driver, you are required by law to surrender your driver's license. If you couldn't do that, at very least you'd have to satisfy a police officer of your identity. If you simply refused, you could be arrested. Additionally, as a cyclist, you are required to identify, although you don't have to have a driver's license, you do need to identify. And if you refused to identify yourself, giving reasonable information to be able to allow us to confirm and satisfy ourselves that you are who you say you are, you could be arrested until such time as we could confirm your identity.
Yep, and it's up to the police officer to actually believe you. You must give enough information that it's reasonable to expect that is who you are. And you know what? If you can't identify somebody, then you're not going anywhere, and you may find yourself sitting into the back of a police car until we can figure out who you are.
And ultimately, there's no benefit to you to be difficult. It's funny. Yesterday we were on the air with Jerry Agar, and we had a question just like this, and we addressed it. But then I got a text message from a retired member of our service, someone I used to work with in the motor squad, who says, I've arrested a lawyer who refused to do that. Yeah, it does happen. People do choose to go down a certain path without any real good reason, and they end up getting arrested. So just a shout out to that officer, that retired officer who was listening. It's always nice to hear from people you haven't heard from in a while. Okay. Are racing seats illegal? Racing seats, Recaro aftermarket seats, things like that, as long as they meet the safety requirements and are properly installed, I don't think there's any issue. The problem is the seat belts. If you're talking about racing seats and you're including in that question a 6-point harness, those are not legal for the road. Aftermarket seat belts can be installed and may be okay for the track, but you still have to use your OEM seat belt, which looks absolutely ridiculous when it's over your 6-point harness. It takes all the cool factor right out of it. So it depends on your question, and I'm sort of stretching there, assuming you were talking about the multi-point harnesses. Not only are they not street legal, but they are also giving you additional, or giving the paramedics who may have to extract you from a vehicle, extra work to do. One of our friends who races says, they're generally not installed properly, but even when they are installed properly, you need a pit crew to strap you in. It's not just a light tug on the seatbelt when you have these harnesses. You need to become one with that seat for it to be effective.
So you're saying that the racing milk crate is not a good idea?
I've heard stories of the milk crate.
Yeah.
That some people have operated motor vehicles with. I don't know if they used seatbelts when they were using the milk crate.
Well, even if they did, do you think it would work? I don't know. I might have seen something like that.
It might have happened. I always hear the story about the people who had floors that you could do the Flintstone thing with.
Might have seen that as well.
Can I do burnouts in my driveway? Serious question. Burnouts would be an intentional loss of traction, and it would fall under the category of, stunt driving. So no, you can't legally. We're not hanging out on your driveway. I don't know if you've ever looked in your garage. We've never been sitting there that I'm aware of. And generally speaking, that kind of activity, although illegal, tends to be enforced when we get calls for complaints from neighbors and so on. The reason, and this is new as of September 12, 2021, where stunt driving became enforceable on private property. And, it is a thing where neighbors call in to say that people are acting a certain way. So know that you can have that charge laid for stunt driving on private property, whether it be burnouts, drifting, donuts. And what would happen, what's the consequences? You'd still lose your vehicle for 14 days, your license would be suspended for 30, and your insurance would likely jump up. It's not something that's gone to court that I'm aware of yet, but it is something to be aware of. Let's see here. How old do you have to be to sit in the front seat? Arjun wants to know. So there's requirements for child safety restraints for safety seats, and they start from infant, toddler, and go on. So let's just talk about location. So once you no longer require a safety seat, you're not in a booster, and to do that you have to be over 8 years old, over 80 pounds, or 80 pounds or over, and 4'9" or taller, and that gets you to the legal requirements for not sitting in a child seat. In terms of seat location, there's no law that says where location in the vehicle you must sit, but we suggest, and safety specialists suggest, that you sit in the back seat until you're 14 years old. 14 years old should be the youngest you are, or the youngest you are to sit in the front seat, and that's because those airbags and crumple zones and bad things happen in collisions in the front seat first. So the safest place is the rear seat. Not a popular thing. I know my kids are just can't wait to sit next to dad, and they will unfortunately have to sit in the back for their safety as long as possible. Kind of like my kids. I want them to. I want them to stick around. Can you say what you'd say to arrest somebody? Usually say you're under arrest. Is there any other magical terms?
That usually works for me.
And of course, we add what we're arresting them for. So that's part of the secret sauce of arresting somebody.
Yep. Along with that, too, is you get your rights.
Yes, there are the rights to counsel.
They're called Miranda rights. I think it's an American term.
Miranda rights are American, yes.
But we still call them the same thing.
Rights to counsel.
Rights to counsel up here.
Yeah, and there's a whole spiel in our memo book that we would read from, which I don't have in front of me, otherwise I'd read it to you. But maybe tune in another time, ask me another time. We're really close, so we have 5 minutes left. I want to try and get as many questions as possible before the end of the show, and then we'll be shut down for the weekend. And actually, it's a good time to mention, Monday, we're not going live on our regular time. We're going to be doing a media event in relation to it's called Speed Kills traffic campaign. We are going to be announcing officially to the media about the campaign that's going to be underway next week. So if you're going to be driving in the city of Toronto and you like speeding, you might want to change your behavior, because while we normally have everyone looking for speeders, we are really ratcheting up on that because we have concerns about speeders. People aren't getting the message, so maybe more tickets need to be written to convey that. So speed kills. A lot of people say that speed doesn't kill. It's the rapid deceleration after a collision that kills.
Well, that is true.
But you know what?
But what gets you there first?
Well, that's it. You win the race. The deal with speed, and one of the reasons we are reducing, I should say, the cities are reducing speed limits inside the city, is because when you reduce speed, you reduce injury and damage. That's a big deal. The faster you go, the more serious the more serious the injuries result. So if you hit a pedestrian, and that's a major issue, right? Pedestrians being struck. If you strike a pedestrian at 60 kilometers an hour versus 30 kilometers an hour, the likelihood of their surviving the collision are high at 30 and low at 60. So there's a reason why we reduce these speeds. Underglow Laws. One of the questions that always comes in. Underglow laws. There's no specific law for underglow, so it's not illegal, but it is possible that misuse or poor installation might constitute an offense in other areas. For instance, you cannot project light other than white or yellow to the front. If your bulbs are visible, you might be projecting light forward. That might be an improper headlight. You can't have red, blue, green light. Those are restricted colors. So it really depends. Listen, it's not 1984. No one really needs underglow anymore. It's not that cool. But if you really are interested in it, then know that you should not have visible bulbs. It should be projected down, and it should be a mild glow versus light that's disrupting anybody else's day. And if you're going to use it, I would suggest using it on private property. Now, you stance you pose your vehicle for the photo shoot in front of Timmy's. That's a great time to put on your stuff. But when you hit the road, you really shouldn't be doing that. And blinking light, bad. Things that could be attention getting. As people drive into you because they see the flashing light. It's funny. Impaired drivers are drawn to flashing lights. I can't tell you how many police cars. My old partner, when I was in 12 Division, she was investigating a collision, and then someone drove into her police car. While she was walking back to the car, she had to dive out of the way. Things I will never forget as I went to go, deal with the impaired arrest. We have a minute and 53 seconds before the fine folks watching on Instagram say goodbye. And that's because we have a limitation of 1 hour until Instagram decides to get their stuff together and verify us on that platform. I don't know how we're not verified on that platform. We're verified everybody else. Right, Instagram? If you're watching, verify us. Let's see here. Rob Baker says, drunk people are like mosquitoes. They're attracted to light.
That is true.
I've never heard them compared to mosquitoes. I'm sure they would appreciate that. What is this? Is illegal to accelerate, is it illegal to accelerate hard but not over the limit? This comes into question. We've talked about this before. In marked departure, if you're doing something that really stands out as strange behavior, could draw the attention, could be considered racing, could be considered a lot of things. Just because you don't perceive it that way doesn't mean the officer investigating you doesn't perceive it that way. So it really depends. If people are jumping out of the way, if you're interfering with pedestrian traffic because you're this hard acceleration, it could be something perceived as stunt, and you may have to explain yourself later. It's certainly not behavior that's suggested. But there is no accelerate quickly law that I'm aware of.
Yeah, each laws they're all divided into little sections, right? So speeding alone, if you don't go over, then you're not actually speeding. But how you get there and why you're doing it could be a big part of it.
Yeah. So this is all about safe and driving and being a cooperative driver. And it's not just drivers that you have to. It's cyclists, pedestrians, all sorts of road users, and they're all expecting you to do what's normal and predictable. And when you do things that are not predictable, you may find yourself in a collision situation. Let's see here. I think this is going to be the last question because it's 11 o'clock and we just lost Instagram. Online doesn't have a straight answer on lifts. I don't know what you mean. Are these shoes we're talking about? What kind of lift kits for vehicles? 3 inches is the maximum body lift kit that you can have in a vehicle. Beyond that, you may find yourself being in a situation where you're not covering your tires properly. 'Cause you can't have you need mud flaps and fenders to cover your tires. There's a whole bunch of things that come into play, but I believe 3 inches is the maximum lift kit. Everything that you put on your vehicle has to be approved at that point. But the off-road vehicles, anything else to add for lifting?
Well, off-road vehicles are not.
But on-road vehicles with the off-road feel.
Yes,
Off-road-esque.
it has to be done safely. It has to be done properly. All the components you put on there have to be approved by Transport Canada. Doing a lift on a vehicle after you get it safetied may cause some problems because it may not comply with the new safety rules.
So it has to be safetied after you've made modifications.
So it would have to be confirmed that it's still within the specifications as required by Transport Canada.
Any tips for your G2? Last question, and then I got to sign off. Tips are the best tips, and this came from Scott Marshall, the Safe Driver. He's on TikTok. You can follow him there. He's a TikToker, Twitter person. He has a podcast. Great guy. He says you should get good sleep. You should eat before because you don't want to be hungry or thirsty while you're driving. You should go to the bathroom because having to go to the bathroom while you're on your road test probably not a good thing either. Aside from those, I would suggest that you also stay calm as best you can and verbalize your actions so that the person taking notes can know what you're doing even if they don't see it. Everyone have a great weekend. We will be back on Monday for some stuff, but it won't be a regularly scheduled show because we have a media event. So Tuesday will be the next scheduled regular gig. We'll see you then. Have a great weekend. Stay safe and music time.
Bye.